Good evening, everybody. My name's Alan Miller, and I've been around. I was a builder developer for about 38 years, and I've been home inspecting since 2007. So I've been in the home inspection business for about 17 years. I'm here pretty much tonight just to talk to you in generalization about where I came from and where I'm at right now. Home inspection business for me has turned out fabulous. I got to tell you, at being a builder developer, and the difference between a builder and a developer is a builder builds houses, a developer finds land, subdivides the land, and then it goes ahead and builds houses. And I was both. Did it turn out well for me? I've had my ups and downs. In 2007, when I had finished pretty much building all the land that I had developed and sold all the houses I had no inventory. I didn't know what I was going to do. My wife said to me, well, get a resume going and see if you can find a job. Very frustrating after being a successful entrepreneur. Started looking in the newspaper, found an ad. Home inspector wanted. I sent the resume out. She helped me put the resume together, sent it out, and within 2 weeks' time, I got a call from a company, local company, who I wound up interviewing with. And before the interview was even over, the principal said, I want to hire you. When can you start? I said, wait a second. I appreciate you offering to hire me, but I really don't know what you're all about. And I'd like to know what your company is all about. He was in the home inspection business. And before I accepted that job, I said to him, I said, I'll tell you what, let's go ahead. Let me go out and follow you around a little bit. And one day I met him at a job, and he said to me, we're going to do a pre-drywall inspection. Do you know what that is? And I said, of course I know what it is. He says, well, I'm going to start at one end of the house. You start at the other end of the house, and we'll meet, we'll cross, whatever. And about an hour and a half later, we met up. He had about a half a page of items, and I had about a page and a half of items. And I looked and I said, wow, maybe this is a good place for me, because I might know a little bit more than they know. Long story short, I joined up with them. And I had some good experiences, and I also had a bad experience. The good experiences was I was with two other family members who have been inspecting, and I started to learn a lot from them. Getting your license as a home inspector is not very difficult. Keeping in mind, having the license, and when you think about it, when you are certified throughout the country as an ASHI certified inspector, there's only 32 to 3,500 certified ASHI inspectors in the country. That says a lot for us. Again, continuing to work with this company, things started to, when the home inspection business flows with the real estate business. When the real estate business is good, the home inspection business is good. When the real estate business goes bad, the home inspection business slows down. We are in a very slow time right now due to the interest rates. And I'm sure there are several people out there that are starving in the home inspection business. I don't see as many faces that I used to see. I don't know what's going on all around, but I can read between the lines. I continued to work for this company until I realized that some of my work was getting given away to these other family members. And how did I find that out? Real estate, a couple of agents would call me and said, are you still in the home inspection business? I said, of course. Well, I've been calling the office trying to get you. And due to the fact that the business was slow, the family members were number one and number two, and I was number three. So it became very frustrating for me. Told my wife, I said, I'm getting out of this after I found out what was going on. She said, no, you're not. She made me brochures, business cards, and she said, after every inspection, you're going to, if people like you, you're going to hand them a business card and a brochure, and you're going to say, eventually I'm going to head out on my own. Well, unfortunately, that's what happened. And I became successful at this. Being a builder and trying to sell your own product, I would do my walkthroughs. I would spend a lot of time. I'm a talker. I love people. I love to talk to them, and I love to explain to them what they know absolutely nothing about. And that's why the home inspection business has become so successful for me. I spend a lot of time with people. It's not so much, there's different kinds of home inspectors. There is a home inspector out there that knows a limited amount of what he needs to know. There's a home inspector out there that knows tons of knowledge and wants that customer to know how much he knows. And then you have the home inspector out there that knows enough to educate the home buyer on what they're buying. That's the kind of home inspector I am. I know a lot, but my customer doesn't need to know everything that I know. And I do spend a lot of time with people. My opening statement when I go and I meet people: good afternoon, how you doing? I'm Alan. We are going to learn a lot about this piece of property. You got to understand that when you're inspecting this house, as long as you have their undivided attention, which sometimes it's hard to do, you get into an education program, and you're literally educating these people on what they're buying. And that's extremely important. And within 15 or 20 minutes, you will see that the development that you've established in relationship works. I go through as little as to say to somebody when I come to the windows. Now, let me step back a second. I have a certain procedure. My procedure starts as an introduction outside the house. I say, okay, come on, everybody, let's go to the driveway, because this is where I start my inspection. And I say, what I want to look at is, how does this house sit with respect to the neighboring houses? The first thing I want to discuss is water, infiltration. I want to discuss trees, overhanging. I want them to get comfortable with how I'm speaking to them and see if they are comprehending what I'm saying. Once I have them, then I know it gets comfortable, and don't be afraid to ask them a question or two. Say, do you understand what I'm talking about? Sometimes most of the time I get the people's attention and they're pleased with that. So I walk around the outside of the house and I tell them the reason we're doing the outside is because certain things are going to show up on the inside, and you'll understand more when we get around to it. 2 days ago, just did a very big house, $2.5 million house. Big, tall berm in the back of the house. All the water was running into the house. And I explained all of this as we walked around the house. When we got into the basement of the house, you can see all the step cracks in the block foundation wall. And it made these people understand everything that I was talking about. Long story short, I get into the windows. And I show somebody, hey, this whole house has replacement windows. They happen to be Anderson windows. Well, what is a window? A window is a glass in the hole. Okay, we have double hung windows, and we have single hung windows. We have thermal pane glass. We have glass that's single pane. I explained to them, a double hung window, top sash goes down, bottom sash goes up. Do we really need that? And they look at me. And I say, do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? I'm trying to say that most people with decorations, when it comes to windows, nobody really opens the top window. Get your bid from your window guy if you're going to replace some windows, and then say, hey, I love your bid, but I want to go to single hung windows. A single hung windows, you're going to save a whole lot of money. I'm educating my buyer as I go through. We get to and again, when I get into the house, I get inside the house, I go to the attic, I do the top floor. From the top floor, I go to the basement. From the basement, I get into all the detail of looking at all the band boards, et cetera, for water, rot, foundation, et cetera, et cetera. And I really have their interest. Once I have their interest, it makes my job a whole lot easier. And they are very receptive of what I'm saying. Um, what I can say is, in this business, it's not an easy business to be very successful. If you think you're gonna get rich tomorrow in the home inspection business, I'm sorry to say, the majority of it, it's not gonna happen. It's a great business as a primary business. If you have a secondary, it's gonna be helpful. We are in tough times right now. It's the same as being tough times. Where are we going? Nobody knows. I don't know. Like I said, I love what I do, and I'm very satisfied when I leave these people at the end of the day, because they're really making a choice based on what I had told them, whether to buy that house or not to buy it. Do I give them the answer to buy it or not to buy it? Absolutely not. I tell them, I said, there are things that I told you in this house that they could be expensive fixes. Do I estimate prices? Absolutely not. I did that a long time ago. It backfired on me. Mr. Miller, you told us about $10,000. We negotiated $10,000. Well, we wound up getting a bid for $15,000. You don't want to estimate anything. Do you want to refer subcontractors? If you refer anybody, give them a list of referrals. Give them certain people to talk to, because sooner or later, something's going to come back to you, and you're going to be stuck with it. I don't know how all you guys been doing at this time of year. It's tough, isn't it? Yeah, so you have to weather the storm.
Yo-yo.
I'm sorry?
It's a yo-yo.
It's a yo-yo. It's exactly right. And until we get through this next election, who knows what's going to happen? We have something that's very, very different right now. We used to have a lot of product on the market. We don't have product on the market. We have multiple housing with rental units. The small builder, like I was, gone by the wayside. It's the big production builders. How do the production builders work? The production builders, they got all the money, they got all the connections, they got all the land. They bring their subcontractors in and they say, hey, the frame is going to cost this, the concrete's going to cost this, which one you guys want it? And that's how it works. They dictate it and they stay within their budget that way. We're in very, very different times. But as far as getting out of the home inspection business, I never want to leave it. Just love it. It's very, very satisfying to me. I'm sure it's very satisfying to you guys. But if you don't know something, don't say it. Don't be afraid to say you're not sure, because it'll come back and haunt you. Don't be afraid to recommend. You see a few cracks in the walls, you're not the judge to finalize and say, don't worry about it. Bring in maybe, make a recommendation. Hey, further investigation is needed here. What more can I say? If you guys got any questions for me, I'm here. I'll answer them, I hope you guys are as happy as I am. It's just tough to make money right now.
Well, Alan, you left out an important part of your Genesis story. I remember the first day that I met you. It was in the it was back when they were first starting to license home inspectors, and people had put out the state had put out the application for people to come in under the grandfather clause. Some people who had been around and were legit under the grandfather clause submitted the applications. However, before the deadline for the application for the grandfather clause, the state decided not to implement the license law. Some of you remember that, right? 5 years later, they decided to implement the license law, but they didn't extend the grandfather clause, which meant that people who didn't apply back when even though they were eligible, if they didn't apply back 5 years ago, they had to go through the entry-level course. So I put together 2 courses, one for beginners and one for these guys who didn't get their application in under the grandfather clause. So you called me that day, and you told me that, in fact, you told me who the family was that you were working for.
We're not talking
We're
about
not going to
that.
mention them. And I told you that you were, because you had no experience doing home inspections, or little experience doing home inspections, that you'd be in the beginners class. And you told me, no, I'm in the advanced
I
class.
might have said that. I might have, I'm sure that was me. I won't say no.
And I learned more in that class than I've learned in any class I've ever been in, whether it was home inspection related or not. I stood in the front of that class and watched this room full of veteran inspectors
Yep.
react
Yeah.
to content. I put the content out there and the room would just light up with all of this experience.
Yep. Hollis was our teacher. Yep. And it was great. Yep.
It was a good time.
It was a
good
great time. I can't believe it's 17 years has gone by already. People say to me, when are you going to retire? I have no desire to retire. This is something, like I said, it's a tough business to make a really good living at, but it's really fun if you like people and know what you're inspecting before. It's very important. The knowledge that we get out of these seminars is great. Some of it your customer doesn't need to know. We need to know it as much as we possibly can to keep ourselves protected. But I couldn't have found, being a builder developer that had no control over the market. When my business, I ran out of land. I didn't have any more land. And I wasn't going to pay those high premium prices when everything in 2007, it was going through the roof. Everybody was buying all kinds of land. I'm running around like a madman saying I'm too young to retire. I didn't know what I was going to do. Truthfully, I was sitting on the driveway one day drinking a cup of coffee. My son comes out and says, "Pops, what's the matter?" I said, "I'm getting depressed. I'm too young. I was a successful builder, developer, and where am I going from here?" I didn't know where I was going to go. And my wife says, "Become a home inspector." I said, "No, I'm becoming a home inspector. Come on, what are you kidding me?" I really love what I do, and I'm sure a lot of you guys like what you do. And again, it's mixing with the people. Mix with your buyer. You're not every buyer is gonna love you for it. Some you're gonna hate, some you're gonna bore. But you know what? Know what you're talking about and try to be as friendly as you possibly can.
You made a comment of, don't try to bluff your way. If you don't know, don't try to fake it.
Yeah.
What I tell my students is you have no idea what your client's knowledge base is.
Correct.
So if you try to BS your way through describing an HVAC system or something, and you've never seen this particular, and you try to spout off, and it turns out your client's an HVAC contractor, you're going to look pretty stupid, and they're not going to trust anything else you say.
What just came back to me from this house, this $2.5 million house that I had just done in Bethesda, was that the prospective buyer who was under contract said to my real estate agent, he said, "I came through the house." In other words, the buyer came through the house Saturday and Sunday on the opening house. And he says he wasn't really sure if he needed a home inspector because he's pretty knowledgeable of what houses look like. Okay. He hired me to come through. He wound up not buying this house because of all the structural integrity that I had found. That he actually said to my real estate agent, he said, "I don't think we really need a home inspector. I've been through it on Saturday and Sunday. I really walked through this house, et cetera, et cetera." Three-quarters of the way of the home inspection, we're down in the basement and I'm looking at everything and I'm spotting some different things. And he said to me, he says, "Alan, you mind if I make a phone call to my wife?" I said, "Absolutely not." Because she was there in the beginning and then she left. 5 minutes later, he comes back. He says, "Alan," he says, "is there any way of cutting this inspection short?" I said, "Well, absolutely not. But tell me where you're coming from." He says, "You found so much stuff in this house that I don't think we want to go forward with this." And I said, "If you want me to cut it, I can cut it. And I'll be happy to discount my price." And I discounted my price. We shook hands. He paid me. We walked away. The real estate agent was not as happy as but the real estate agent said to me, and he said to the buyer, he said, "This is why I wanted Alan to come here. You thought Saturday and Sunday you went through you did your own walkthrough, you looked around. you look at different things than the home inspector showed you. Some people say to me, they call me back maybe 2 weeks after I do an inspection. Hi, Alan. Oh, you remember you did my house, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, whoa, hold on a second. No, I don't remember you. But if you give me an address, give me 10 minutes and I can look up the address. Because I focus not on, oh, this is a beautiful refrigerator. Oh, the decorating is here. I am so focused on the structural integrity, the windows, the electrical, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. You know, here I was in a $2.5 million house and it only had 125 amps of electricity coming in. Sitting in a 200 amp panel. Okay, missing 3 screws and a few double taps. I said, it's got to go. Why does it have to go? I said, not enough. It's got to go. The main power line is all frayed and everything, et cetera, et cetera. You know, and he never even picked up on this kind of stuff. That's not his job to pick up on it. But what can I tell you? You know, I love what I do. It's fun. He even said to me, I'll get him back. It's not this house. He's going to find another house. He's calling me again. I guarantee it.
Absolutely.
So that's why I'm saying it's fun. You establish a relationship. It comes back to you. I'll get calls 6 years down the road. Hey, Alan, you did a house for me 6 years ago. My name is so-and-so. You think I really know who you are? No. You know, my line to some of these people, they come to me, blonde-haired woman says, hi, Alan, how you doing? I said, I never forget my blondes. What can I tell you? I like people, and it's fun for me, and it's a great business. I wish it would be steadier. Go ahead.
What was the most important lesson or lessons you learned early on?
Lessons I learned early on. You really want to know that? I'm going to tell you my bad experience. Because I didn't have a non-compete, I didn't have to sign a non-compete, and I was working for a company as an independent inspector. And once I had found out that my work, here I am, they're telling me, you got to go out and knock on real estate doors and introduce yourself and say, hey, I'm a home inspector. I used to be a builder and I can do your work. The hardest part about trying to get new work for the newbies that are out there is establishing a relationship with a realtor. Once a realtor gets to know you, they don't want to look at somebody else. That's where it's very, very difficult. So what happened in that situation, I didn't have any non-compete clause. I never had to sign a piece of paper. I did a big inspection on a house in Potomac. I was told that there was mold in this house and it was fully remediated. I had asked where the mold was. There was a doctor selling the house. He said it was down in the basement on the front wall. They actually had basement windows the way they had basement windows on the front foundation wall. It didn't look really nice, but it had areaway, window wells. They wound up closing them because they raised the grade of the house, the driveway, and took the window wells away, blocked in those windows, et cetera, et cetera. When I went ahead, this was an inspection. I was still working for the company, but this was an inspection that came in totally on my own. Another realtor had called me. When I went into that house and did that full inspection, I found mold. Listing agent said to me, how did it go? I said, well, we got mold. Well, it was just remediated. I said, come on downstairs and I'll show it to you. There's all kinds of mold down there because I pulled out a refrigerator. I went ahead, I dug around a little bit in the cabinets. Once they tell me it had mold and they tell me where, that's certainly where I'm going to concentrate a little bit more to look. Next thing I know, they need to go out, listing agent needs to go out and call a home inspector that does mold inspection. Did I put my foot in my mouth? I'm not a mold inspector, but the company I was working for was mold inspectors. They called that company. That company said, who did the home inspection? They said, Alan Miller did the home inspection. What do you mean Alan Miller did the home inspection? I got caught. Okay, I got caught. I got a phone call. That was the end of it. And that's basically when I said, well, you know what? I'm going out on my own. And I went out on my own. It took me a little while, but I gotta tell you something, I'm a happy guy and I love it. And I hope you guys can be as happy.
To your point also about, don't put yourself out there as an expert on everything. If you don't know it, you don't know it.
Exactly.
And those who are new to this will, at least it happened probably for the first 10 to 15 years I was doing this. I'd go into a house and the first thing the client would do is point at something and say, "What is that?" Hell, I'd never seen that thing before. I don't know what the hell it is. But at first I would certainly say, okay, we'll get to that. We haven't gotten there yet. We'll talk about it later. Meanwhile, spinning, my head is spinning. Okay, wait a minute. What is that? What is that? There are times when I couldn't answer what it was, but I don't know if it's ever happened to any of you when somebody has pointed at something and said, "What is that?" You try to divert it for a little while and you might figure it out, but yeah, we're
That's where I do a
That is-
Google search when I'm up in the attic.
yeah.
Or call another MAC-ASHI member. Right?
It's before Google.
No.
So,
Really
again-
good at something. So,
Know when you don't know.
100%. And there is
Yeah.
something else that I'm going to say that's very, very important. And it's very important that you control the home inspection from the very start.
Yep.
Don't let that home buyer control you on things like that. If they say, "Hey, can we look at this first?" And say, "Hey, look, I respect what you're asking me to do. I will get there, but please understand, there's a certain procedure that I've been trained at and I know it. And I write my reports based on how I do my inspections. And we really need to stay with that, but I will answer your question. Just don't forget it. And control the inspection. Control it as much as you can. Yeah, you do get sometimes where you get a whole family of people that are coming through there. And that does get frustrating. And that gets frustrating. And you have to go to the one that is going to pay you. And you say, "Hey, look, I don't mean to be out of line with you or nothing, but look, you want me to inspect your house? If you want, I'll go up and I'll do the attic, I'll do the upstairs, and I'll call you in 15 minutes if you want to sit down here and chat, and I'll tell you everything that I found." We can do it that way too. But sometimes they bring families in and it is difficult. You just got to work your way around it.
I tell families when they start pointing me, what about this? What about this? You want me to perform this
Right.
inspection for your kids,
Right.
whoever. You
That's
want the best of me. You want that. By you pulling me different directions, I can't focus on what we're here for. So you need to let me do my job. I got to take care of your kids. You can talk to them later or what have you. But right now, it is your kids and me and the house.
Correct? Yeah, I agree with it. Anybody else have any questions? Everybody else as happy as me?
yeah.
Busy enough.
Thanks for your time, guys.
Thanks, Al.
Sure.